I don't know. I think we should go around and still like just say who we are and our kid's name and you know, maybe that's it for now. Unless you want to say, if you want to say more, go ahead and say more. But let's at least verbally introduce ourselves. So I think that would be good. And anyone can start.
All right, I'll start. I'm Jeff Testa. I'm Jocelyn Testa's dad, for you, those of you that don't know me. And my wife couldn't make it, so Alec, if you can send me the video, it'd be great.
Yeah, I will.
So I didn't forget anything.
Yeah, what we'll do is I'll put it on our internal, basically, it's like a YouTube, but internally, and I'll put it on there and send it out to everyone that can't come.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, next.
Hi, I'm Therese.
No, I can hear you.
Yeah,
we can.
We can hear you.
Thanks, Sophie. I'm Sophie's mom.
Hi, Sophie. Are you there? All right. Who else do we have?
So we
I'm
are
Tanya. I'm Tyler's mom.
I'm glad there's more than one dog.
I'm Britt, this is Jesh, and we're Angevin's parents. And we apologize for the dog. We'll remute.
No worries.
I'm Chad and Liz, and we're Sophia's parents.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Eliza. My husband Paul is right here, and we're Samara's parents.
Erin, I'm Brody's mom.
I think we might have one Naomi.
Oh yeah. Hi, my name's Naomi and I am Caitlin's mom.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you all. Was that everyone?
Think we're good.
Great.
Yep.
All right. So welcome. It's a little bit weird to be on Zoom, but it's also really convenient and nice. And I don't think it would have been as convenient to have to show up to Parker. So I appreciate this, and I hope you guys appreciate it, even though it's online. I think it'll be some good information. And I guess I want to start with, I realize and acknowledge that the start of all of this was a little bit like, you might have felt like, what's going on? I've run many student trips, and Alec has joined me on many of them. And this is the first time that we did it this way. Usually by the end of the previous year, we're already ready to go. But you know, what we thought and what Todd really thought, and I think it made sense given COVID and our return to travel finally, we just didn't feel like it just, things felt too in flux to make commitments at the end of last year. So what we didn't realize is how much stress that would put on the beginning of this year, and especially in trying to get airfare. That was a little bit hard, but we're finally at a place where we can exhale a little bit, and we've got lots of information to share with you. And yeah, so I'm going to share a PowerPoint that has most of it. Don't feel like you need to take notes, because one, we're going to send you the recording and the PowerPoint, and two, almost everything will be communicated again to you. But it's always nice to just put eyes on everyone and to, you know, meet sort of together live and go over it that way. So if you have questions, you can interrupt me. I won't see you too much, but you can just interrupt me, or you can put them in the chat, and maybe Alec, if you can watch the chat and follow that. And then also at the end, we'll have time too. So, and we'll just see how good I am at sharing my screen. If after all this time. Let's see.
Success.
Yay. All right. So you all should see this sort of welcoming Forfar field station. This is where we're going to be staying. Now I just got to figure out how to go forward. Okay, got it. So the program that we do is actually an organized program through International Field Studies. And this is a group that's been around since the 70s. And they basically have a field station down in Andros, and they do all sorts of trips, week-long trips for students. They also serve researchers that want to go down there and collect data. And most of the student groups are colleges and high schools, but they also now have expanded lots of really great programs. We've had students that have done this and then go on to like semesters down there and other things, and even as graduate students, you can be an intern there. So yeah. So we're going to go over the trip itinerary a little bit, finances, medical forms. I might mention the packing list, and then if you guys have questions. Those are 2 pictures. When we walk out of the cabins, that's what we see. So we look right out into the ocean, and there's quite a bit of free time where we're hanging out in this area here. So getting there, the groups will fly into Nassau, and once we get to Nassau, we'll take a small plane over to Andros, and the plane usually is the size of like down that left-hand corner. Nassau is the big airport up on the left. It's about, I don't know, it's about the size of Manchester, which is actually Manchester, New Hampshire, which is where we're going to fly out of. And then that tiny little building down on the bottom right, that is Andros Airport. And they redid their airport, I don't know, several years ago, and it's really cute and nice. It used to be literally just a shack kind of building. These are our flights, and I think that I sent out communication, but getting flights to Nassau was really, really difficult, and I feel very fortunate that we got these. And the way we were able to do it is that we had to go to Brian and say, look, we kind of have to shift the dates on this a little bit. We just could not get out Saturday to Saturday, because the thing is that we need to get to Nassau by noon, and we need to leave Nassau after like 2 o'clock. So that made it a little bit difficult. So there were lots of different things that we were looking at. We were going to maybe have to stay overnight in Nassau. Things were very expensive, but in the end, we switched it from Thursday to Thursday. And so normally, you know, a lot of times they end up missing a Friday anyhow on these trips. So it was just one more day. And I think that on the other end, it's really nice for them to have a little bit of flex time to be able to, you know, get back into the swing of things before school starts. So you'll notice that we leave out of Manchester, New Hampshire. And for some of you, it will be closer. For some of you, it will be farther away than Boston. But for all of us, it will be such a much more pleasant experience. I've left with groups from both places, and Manchester's just really easy. And so that's what we'll do. And we'll have, you know, the final details of where we'll meet and how we'll meet, but you can't get lost anyhow. You just walk in and you'll see us. So that's what's nice. We are flying American, usually with travel groups. I've flown Southwest, but we couldn't get it through Southwest this time. So we're flying American, and they're pretty good flights. I think they're really good flights. We do have a layover, but it's not a big deal, and we have fun anyhow in the airport. So, and then as you can see on Thursday when we come back, we do get in late. It's not the most convenient. Oh, we leave early too, but I don't know. We're used to doing that, and it is a little bit it's a little bit of trouble for parents. But if you carpool, if you know, figure those kinds of things out, we do meet at the airport. It just saves us a lot of money. It'd be expensive to get a bus. So, and we will get into Nassau from Andros pretty early. So we may decide to do like, there's a little bit of a tour kind of thing we can do of Nassau, which is fun. We'll decide that a little later on, depending on how much time we have. So, any questions on the flights? If so, just speak because I can't really monitor.
Yeah, and
hands.
if you have questions and you want to type them in the chat, I can.
Yeah, you can do that
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
But these are, I cannot tell you how many hours. If any of you have planned any trips lately and you don't do it through Travelocity, which we couldn't, we had to go through group travel. I mean, hours and hours. My classes are used to that elevator waiting music now. They're like, Tiff, are we on wait again? So I'm just really glad to have this over with. But so those are our flights. When we get there, this is where we stay. Up on the top, will the kids check one bag and then bring a small backpack on the plane? You know what? I haven't really thought about this. In the past, Alec, haven't we always made it so that kids bring a bag that fits in the overhead? Is that true?
Yeah, so because we usually do Southwest, we'll get update on their measurements, but they should be relatively the same. So usually it's like a pretty decent sized duffel bag is fine, like a travel bag, and then a backpack. And actually this week on Friday, I think I'm bringing in my duffel bag that I usually bring, and I'm gonna pack it to just show them size and what we actually need versus what you don't need.
Yeah.
It's usually a little funny, but you don't need as much as you think. And the packing list is pretty simple, and we've gone over a little bit with them, but we also have the official list that we'll go over. But you can fit everything in those 2 bags.
Yep, we kind of take a minimalist approach. And that stems from in the past, on these trips, it's just hard to lug actual luggage. So soft duffels are really the way to go. And also we have weight limits for the flight to Andros. So up top to the left is a typical cabin. And you can see below these little sort of arched here cabins. You go in and there's a room to the left and a room to the right, and there are 4 bunks in each room. So that's one accommodation. And then in the middle top, you see made out of limestone, I don't know, I guess you could call it a hotel.
They call
Not
it
really.
hotel.
Yeah, it's the Conch Hotel. And so there's some rooms there, and you can see on the bottom, you see some bunks in there, and those usually have like maybe 6 different bunks or something. And then on the top right, where the picnic tables are, that is sort of the main lodge, and you see some pictures in the lodge. One is the couches that we all hang around, and that's where we socialize and do all sorts of things from, asking I wonder questions to playing guitar and singing songs and just being together. One of the greatest things about this trip is that it is a no cell phone trip. And that is hard for students at first. And it's probably harder for parents. Now that my kids are older teenagers, I don't know what I would do without having that connection, knowing, okay, I can always call them and know where they are. But within 6 hours, they just are used to it, and it's the greatest thing. So it's like going to camp. It's really good. And then the bottom right hand, that's where we also spend a lot of time, and that's where we eat. So lots of card games there, and lots of drinking coffee, tea, things like that. So that's our accommodations, 4-star.
Yeah, not pictured is the lab area too, where we do the lectures at night.
Oh yeah, yep. I think that might come up later on.
Sure.
But yeah. Yes, and there's another room that has some ping pong tables that gets used a lot. So what are some of the things that we're going to be doing? We're going to be doing a lot of snorkeling, and I tried to grab some pictures that show different varying things that in terms of snorkeling. So we go out on boats sometimes, and we go to these really small keys, they're called. And so the bottom left corner, you can see some snorkeling around one. That actually is one that has a small oceanic blue hole that we snorkel to. The bottom right is a freshwater blue hole, which we do some swimming and snorkeling in, mostly swimming. And because the island is made out of limestone, you have these kind of sinkholes that have filled in, and they're really, really cool. And this is one of the things that the students really enjoy. And there are some different level jumps that you can do into these, and then there's ladders to get out. So it's not like a small incline. They're just sort of like sinkholes that you jump into. And it's a lot of adventure and a lot of bravery. And these are the types of things that you will hear students that have taken this trip talk about in their graduation speeches. And these inland sinkholes really push kids' comfortable limits, and it's great to see them sort of support each other and see them grow as they go through it. And then the upper right hand one, that's one of my favorite pictures of us snorkeling just in the middle of the ocean. So you look around and there is no land, and we snorkel. And here in the Bahamas, for the most part, it's really shallow throughout the whole island system. And so, you can go away from land and still only be at 20 feet. What you don't see pictured is there is one place that we go and we jump off, which is it's called the tongue of the ocean, and that is not shallow. That is where the continental shelf drops off. And so it's just like all the way down to the abyss. And so we jump off there, and that's really, really exciting just to know of how deep it is. We spend some of our days on the islands. So up in the upper left-hand corner, we might like bring the boat to one of these small keys and then do some stuff around like in the pools and things like that. So that's the snorkeling water part. We also spend time inland, and we do a few visits to some local communities, and we meet some of the different communities that are there. There's a few different types of there are a few different communities that have settled in Andros. So we go down to one called Red Bays, which is in one part of the island. And there we meet they're kind of like local heroes, and all of the groups go and visit them, and they'll play music for us, and they'll talk about some of the things that they do. They tell us about how they make a living. Some of them do sponging, some of them do wood carving. So we got to meet a lot of the locals. And you see there, that's the lab area in the bottom right-hand corner. So every evening we have some sort of learning lecture or dissection or something that's learning about the things that we're doing during the day. And that's usually around, I don't know, right after dinner, 6:37. That maybe lasts at the most an hour. And then we have some free time where we're hanging out. We might have bonfires or play guitar or whatever. So that's what we do during the day. And now we move on to some of the details. So the finances, the first payment was due a while back, and those are all in. And the second payment is due this Friday. And I know that was really short notice, and you didn't know when that was coming up. And it actually, we had planned to make the second payment due in November, but we couldn't get airline tickets. And so we didn't really know what our budget was until the end, but that is settled. And so we do have a payment this Friday, December 2nd. If that is going to be too soon or poses any sort of challenge, just send me an email and maybe even CC Michelle, our business person, finance person, and we can make an adjustment to that. And then January 6th is the last payment. And that January 6th one it's pretty important because after that, like very shortly after that, all of our bills are due to IFS and to the airline. So we've only had to put out some small deposits, and then we have to put out another one to IFS. So that's kind of how we come up with the dates of when the money is due. Are there questions on that? All right. This is the most important part, and it's the one I least like, and Lisa really doesn't like, but Lisa is like one of the greatest people at our school. She does so much for us. And she, when she came on, my trips became so much easier for me because she took care of everything. She sets us up so well. And I'm always really confident and comfortable in going on these trips, but she makes it so. I mean, we have now, over the course of time, we've supported so many different needs on the trips. And, so much of it goes to the credit of her organizing this. With that, it's real important that families give the attention these forms need, because they hold us up, and it can be very stressful for you and for us if we don't get them done well and on time and all of that. So we put a due date of Friday, January 13th, which is a little bit out there. Like it seems like forever away, but there are some things you may or may not have to do. And as we know, time just flies by. So the first thing, and again, I'm just verbally saying this, all of this will go out in an email. There's a field trip permission slip, and then there's a medication consent form. That medication consent form allows your kid to get whatever they need in terms of like Advil, an antibiotic, an antihistamine, those kinds of over-the-counter types of things. And this second bullet, if your child does not have a prescription or need regular medication, you have to actually sign the bottom of the permission slip. I put that on there because that often gets overlooked. Like you think, my kid doesn't need anything, and then you forget to sign. This is a weird situation where you have to sign off that your child does not have any medications. And then if your child does have an over-the-counter medication that's regularly given, if it's one that they take during school hours, Lisa already has the requirements needed. If it's something not normally taken during the school day that is already distributed by the school, then it's needed for your physician to give an actual order, and it has to be signed by the physician and then given to Lisa. All of these forms will go to Lisa. And then this is the biggest one, so I highlighted it because it's one that especially our juniors and seniors, and we have some, they don't like it, they don't get it, and they think it's like, that's ridiculous. And so I just put it this way. Even if your child is taking medication on their own, and many of them are because they're of that age where they're responsible, by law, legally, we have to give it to them. We have to hold all of the medication. If they take vitamin C, I have to give it to them. So I usually just say, guys, don't give me a hard time about it. It's just the way it is. I get it. And, sometimes they get insulted, like, I know how to take my vitamin C or whatever. Yeah, I know you do. This is just one of those special circumstances. So please, 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 please help us with that. And yeah, it has to be that way. So if I find out they're taking something, then I have to say, you know what, you need to give it to me. So that's the medical forms. If you have individual, I've already met with Lisa and I've already talked about the students that are going, but if you have individual situations, And I would say reach out to Lisa. Lisa will communicate it to me. You can reach out to me, but I'm going to have to communicate it to Lisa anyhow. She's sort of like everything goes through her and then it gets brought to Alec and I. Vaccinations. The last time that we went on the trip was quite a bit ago. It was before COVID. In fact, when we came through the airport coming home, it was literally days before we were remote, and we were like, why is everyone wearing these masks? And why are they asking if we've, traveled outside of the country? And so vaccinations, it's a little bit different, and my take on it is a little bit different than it used to be. I used to say, like, that's up to you guys. You want to, and I feel a little bit differently about it because of the last, several years. But the way that it is basically is, I understand that everyone has a choice in terms of vaccinations, but in terms of school trips, we ask students to be vaccinated, and some of them really make sense. So tetanus. The last time we took this trip, there were many students that weren't vaccinated for tetanus, and it was very stressful to get up to date. But the reason things like tetanus are so important, and hepatitis A, which is not something that, fine, but if you're traveling to areas like this, it's important, because if you get a cut and you're on the island, it's not that easy to take care of. So we ask that you be up to date on your vaccinations, and it's just the easiest. And we've got enough time now where you can make that appointment. If you're not sure if you're up to date, Lisa did share with me.
Tiff, I think you froze.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I'm like, Alec, you're unfrozen, but I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, I think everyone else is good. I don't know what Tiff was gonna say, but I think she was gonna say Lisa can help you out with that. Well, I mean, I think I know a little bit of Tiff was gonna say. I know that some of like hepatitis and A and tetanus are things we want to be up to date. As far as we know, the Bahamas isn't requiring. Oh, Tiff's back.
Sorry, guys, that was stressful. Yeah, the Bahamas, perfect, Alec. The Bahamas is not, am I still on? Can you guys hear me? Okay. The Bahamas is not requiring anything for COVID, so that's really nice. We don't need to do testing. We don't need to, we are not going to test at Parker beforehand. Last year, Parker had some events where you did have to test. We are not testing before we go. So that's just the way that it is. And so I don't know, your kid might get sick. I think the best thing to do is to go ahead and get vaccinated for COVID, and the flu shot too. But we're not going to, that's not going to be a requirement. I know that Lisa's going to communicate very strongly that she suggests it. And I'm just going to say, please know that if your child is sick and Andros, it is not a fun time for them. It is not a fun time for Alec and I at all. It's really not. But we have been there. We've done it. I've dealt with some sicknesses, and so it is what it is. But if we're there and your kid gets sick with COVID, and then it's like, well, no, they never got vaccinated. It will be tough, right? That's different than like coming down with a stomach bug and there was nothing we could do. In other words, again, my thinking on this is a little bit different than it used to be, because I used to say, well, what's the worst that can happen? And now we know things can happen. So I would love to know that we've done everything we can all do to have a healthy and safe time, because that's going to be the most enjoyable time. So, so that's that on vaccinations. And the next one is just illness and emergencies. As I said, we really cross our fingers and hope nobody gets sick, but we've dealt with sickness before at Andros, and usually the worst sickness that we get is sunburns. You know, the worst that we get usually down there is sunburns and a little bit of heat stroke because they don't listen to us. And we're really good at staying on top of them, but if you can give them that message too. And then, you know, there's lots of OTC and TLC, so over-the-counter stuff we will have with us. And both Alec and I are parents, and we both have been through a lot with our own kids, and you know, we're really great travel parents for these guys. And so I've rubbed backs as people were getting sick. I've, you know, held cold washcloths to foreheads, and we've been through it. And so we just sort of deal with that. We've had to deal with nothing real major, but we've had some emergencies and stitches and things like that. The island does have 2 clinics, and most things can be dealt with there. Last time we went, we had some allergic reactions and that we had to deal with, and so we will take them to the clinic if need be. And then in real emergencies, we medevac back to the States. Usually I think it's like Fort Lauderdale, so, or maybe to Nassau, depending on what it is. So let's see. I think that is actually it. I'm going to stop sharing if I can. My connection's a little weird right now. Actually,
There's a question about like packing lots of sunscreen, and I think what's true is is it 8 ounces is usually the limit. So you can pack multiple of those, but also Tiff and I pack 1 bag, right, Tiff, with the medication.
yeah, yep.
And we can also put, I mean, we bring extra sunscreen regardless of what the kids bring, but we can also pack loads and loads of extra if the kids want to bring it, and we'll put it in the medication bag.
Alec, do you know how I stop sharing? It's a different button now. Oh, stop sharing. Okay, found it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. So here we are back. Yeah, and the truth is, the sunscreen that we use, it's a special kind. It's like reef safe sunscreen anyhow. So we'll bring some sunscreen, and I gotta think about that, how we've dealt with this stuff before, because you can only bring certain amounts into the carry-on. So a lot of times what students do is they'll buy those little travel, like if you go to Marshall's, this is where I think Marshall's and TJ Maxx, they have them for really cheap. They're little containers that can hold stuff, and they're the right proper travel size to get through security. So, all right, so what questions do we have? I just talked for a long time.
Tiff, there's a question when the official medical forms and slips will go out in email. I think the answer is this week, right?
Yeah, I have them actually. I just need to make a few modifications. They'll go out within the next few days. So they'll go out by email, and we ask that you bring them back, that you hand them in to Lisa in a physical form. So she likes it in physical form, because that way we take them with us to the island.
And if you don't have a printer, we can help you get that at school.
Yeah. Yeah, if you need to email them back to us and have us print it. I don't know how you do that if you have to sign it. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. What other questions?
So, hi, I have Caitlin here. She's actually allergic to most sunscreens. Like she has a terrible reaction. So we plan on testing a bunch of them prior to find out which one she does not react to. is it possible, like if we find one that works, that's on the list, can we like give you guys a bunch of it? Because
Yeah.
like she's also, pretty pale.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is she'll likely fry to a
Well,
crisp
she's
if
either
she
going to
doesn't.
be a lobster from the sunburn, or
Yeah.
she's going to be a rashy mess from the sunscreen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what? The best thing for you is going to be to get like and Alec, are you planning on going over the packing list Friday? If
Yes, I
we
am.
have community block, I don't even know if we do, but if we do,
I don't think we do. I think it's the assembly.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
Oh, yeah, that's right. But
maybe the following week.
We are going to do
We'll
it.
definitely go over it, but you're gonna want to get like a long sleeve rash guard shirt for sure. So
In fact, we like kind of demand it.
yeah, we do.
People want to wear, like, I understand people are like, oh, it's February, I want to get tanned. But to be honest, the amount of time we're outside, it's not worth it. And every kid that tries to do it gets burned.
We've never had anyone be successful at tanning. Just so you know, it doesn't matter your skin tone. I don't care how much melanin you have. I don't care if all the dark skin. I mean, it's just a lot of exposure in the water, and t-shirts don't work well because they get wet and the collar gets loose, and so it is an investment, and you don't have to get an expensive one. It doesn't have to be some like surf brand. What's difficult is the season is we're kind of out of season. You're not going to Walmart to find these anymore, but you can get them cheap on Amazon.
Yeah. The place where most people do get burns is on the back of their legs. And so that's where the sunscreens is super important.
Yeah.
And the staff at Forfar is amazing at making sure everybody has sunscreen. Like if someone's like, oh, I forgot it, they always have extra. Like they're very careful because they know they've been there for a while. Yeah.
And it ruins the trip for those that get burnt, because then they don't want to do anything, and yeah, you don't want to hang out underneath a towel on the boat while everyone's in the water. So other questions? We are going to have a mandatory family in-person live like Bon Voyage celebration / meeting. That usually falls about a week before we leave, maybe a little bit less. We have had it at people's houses before, if anyone's interested in hosting, and that can be nice, but if not, it's also great when we have it at Parker too. So, but we'll plan that a little bit later on. Any other questions? All right.
I did.
Yeah.
Are you emphatically telling the kids about this rash guard and sunscreen? Because
yes,
Angevin is definitely one of the kids who might be like, yeah, I'm gonna tan. And we spend all summer trying to get her to wear a rash guard and put on sunscreen. So
yeah, they don't really have a choice. And
excellent.
I can be both Alec and but I can be really, really persistent. You don't have a choice, and I will not be nice about it. Like, no, you don't have a choice. You either put it on or you're staying right here on the beach, so
yeah.
And I always say to them, if you ruin my vacation because of your poor choices, you're not going to be happy. You don't want to hang out with Tiff, like helping you out because you were not smart about these things. And I'm also very lovingly like, the typical, you got sunscreen on, you got sunscreen on, you got sunscreen on. And I know when they're lying too, so.
The staff at Forfar also like basically is like, if you don't do this, you're not coming kind of approach. So like they're the professionals in this case, and if it's like a I don't want to look lame thing, it's just Tiff and I usually model. We're like, yeah, we like to look cool. We know these aren't cool, but you know what? it's a lot better to feel better at 10 p.m. and sleep good than be in a lot of pain.
And they actually all like, they say they're gonna be like, "Ugh," but they all do it because we all do it. So we all, look the same. In fact, most of the people down at Forfar, they wear bandanas and they have their, like, only their eyes exposed until they get into the water. So
Yeah, and actually optional, but like I'm a fly fisherman, and having the flexible like neck guards that you bring up over your nose, I wore them the whole time, and it was a huge plus. So they're pretty cheap and cover a lot of your face.
Can the kids bring hats? Like a wide brim hat? Or
yeah, that's going to be on the list.
Okay.
A baseball cap or a wide brim hat or, yeah.
And they're all, so their bags are going to be checked. Nothing is going to, the bags are not going to be checked. They're going to be carrying them on the plane. Okay.
Yeah.
Have to be small enough to fit in the overhead compartment.
Yeah, and we'll have all the dimensions, and we actually make everybody weigh them when we get to Manchester.
Okay.
It's fun. It's like a packing challenge. It's like a geometry assessment.
So, I think we've in the past we've even brought a scale out at Parker in case someone's like, I don't know. So yeah, we can like check beforehand too.
Okay.
And we've already told them, but you want to guide them. You go with less than what you expect to come back with, because one of the big things they all love to come back with is like a 55,000-pound conch shell, right? So, and never fails. Tiff, will you put this in your pack? Because I'm the one that does the one check on, and I'm like, nope. Mine's usually full too at the end. So. But we try to tell them, like, just pack lightly. It doesn't matter. They think it matters, and they get there and they realize it doesn't matter. You can wear the same swim trunks every single day.
Yeah.
No one cares. Like, that's the island life, right? You need 2 t-shirts, 2 shorts, and a hat.
Yeah. And there's clothes hangers outside each of the cabins. So like every night we hang up everything that we wore, and it's dry. It's crazy.
Yeah. But we'll go over I did send a copy of the packing list. I'll send one out again when I send the medical forms out, and we will go over it the next time we meet with them. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone. And please, even if you have like trivial, silly questions, you're wondering about, oh, should I get this? Should I get that? Just email me or Alec. I mean, we love running these trips. It is experiences that these students will not forget. They change lives. It's really transformative for a lot of them. And we take a lot of pleasure and joy and, kind of honor and responsibility that you trust us in taking them, and we have a great time. So don't hesitate to reach out. We love to talk about it, and that's it.
I had another question. Sorry. We were looking at the snorkeling gear, and some of them had an attachment that you could put a GoPro on. And Caitlin was like, "Oh, I don't know if we're allowed."
I don't know. Yeah, I have not seen that technology. That's interesting. You could send it to us. I've not. Have you seen that, Alec? I haven't seen that. But a lot of students, if they have GoPros, they bring them, and they're really great.
Yeah,
the GoPro is really great.
Often kids bring the stick though, the attachment, because that way they're aware of it. I think you probably could put it on the goggles as long as it's not the full mask, the full face mask.
You can buy really cheap stick ones like Alec just. Those are more useful, and a lot of times those have floating handles, so that's convenient. But you know, don't get your student to try to convince you they need a GoPro to go on this. I always feel funny about the GoPros because they're pretty expensive, but you know, a lot of students have them. I don't know why but they do. And
No, just have one, and it does have a waterproof case.
Yep.
So I was, oh, maybe you could take it with you, and she's like, oh, I don't know if we're allowed to because we're not.
Oh
allowed
yeah,
home.
yeah. That's the type of, because most of the students and families too, we have a hard time figuring out, oh my gosh, what do we do without our phone? But wait, we take pictures with our phone. So there are actually fairly affordable GoPro-like cameras out there now that I've seen. I think I purchased one the last time for $35, which it's still an investment, right? But and then some people bring digital disposable cameras. You can get those for like $10, $15 at drugstores. And then some people aren't big into taking pictures and they just let everyone else take the pictures. And then they, you know, get all the pictures the hundreds of pictures that have been taken. So I usually don't take many pictures.
I usually am the one taking a lot of the pictures. And then what I do is I ask the kids that do bring cameras, we collect them all, and then I make a big folder when we get back, and then kids can take what they want if they want to save any.
I don't think, is someone trying to talk?
Oh, I was saying you should share it with parents because some kids won't ever let the parents see the pictures.
We will. Alec, I'm gonna jump out because I have to go tutor actually in about 10 minutes. So but I don't want you all to feel like you need to leave. And Alec, if you're willing to stay on and take any more questions.
Yeah, I can stay on for a little bit.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, Tiff.
Bye.
Yeah, with pictures in the past, we make a big slideshow because we usually have the kids share at gathering, and it's like an opportunity where they talk about what they did, and we go through the pictures, and kids will either submit or I'll use what I have. But maybe it would be cool I can figure out a way to share a folder. I think that's possible with Parker storage, like the cloud we have. So that'd be nice.
Caitlin is super worried about waking up in the morning without an alarm clock.
It's not as hard as you think. Yeah, so like bedtime every night. Everybody has to be in the cabins by 10, and like the general rule of thumb is like you can stay up and talk to the people in your cabin, but like you can't stay up because you'll regret it. But most of the time after the first day, people are asleep by like 10, 15. Even the kids that are like, I don't sleep, because we go from basically 7 a.m. to like 6 p.m. like nonstop. And then when we do have downtime, it's like for an hour, and it's not that much time compared to what they're used to. It's like a much longer day than, say, a school day. And then from 7 to 9, usually we have lectures from the staff that are there. For the most part, they're graduate students or like doing some doctoral study. Like it depends what it is. It's different every time. But the people that are there in some sort of field, and there's a variety of specialty. So that's what we do in the evenings. And then after that, it's like we have an hour to hang out, and some kids are just like, see ya, going to sleep. But in the morning, if kids aren't awake, Tiff or I, depending on the cabin, will go in and make sure they're awake, because breakfast starts, I think it's 7 or 7:15. And we're on the boat. On the days we're on the water, we're on the boat by like 8 o'clock, 8:30.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but she wanted to ask. I imagine that her friends will jump on her. Or,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I only have an alarm clock. Her name is Jocelyn. She'll help out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Sophie too.
And Caitlin's actually more of a morning person than anybody else in the family, so I don't know why she's worried about this.
A lot of kids get up at 5:36 because the sunrise, we're facing east. And so we get this amazing sunrise every morning where you get up and you want to go out and see it. And they're allowed to like go out of their cabins and sit. There's benches at the beach. When we went last time, I went out and went bone fishing with one of the staff people at like 5 in the morning and brought a kid along, which is really cool because you can walk the flats and it's like a big time fishery. Cool. All right.
There was one question I think we were curious about. So, like, is it possible that you could use like teachers' phones to make calls home if you wanted to? Like, if you wanted to, like, you know, just get in touch with family or anything?
Yeah. So what we've done, I'm trying to remember Andros last time. When I brought kids to Costa Rica, we actually had a blog where we updated every day, and we had a different kid write their entry, and so that was like one communication. Kids that become like, if you get really homesick, Tiff and I will let kids use our phone. So like that's not off the table whatsoever. And then Tiff and I, or really Tiff, I just kind of winged it and didn't have service. But Tiff purchases like an international plan. So if there needs to be a phone call, that can happen. And she gives all the parents her number. So if there's something that needs to be communicated, we're not out of reach in that way. And the lodge has Wi-Fi. So Tiff and I usually will just use that and we'll send updates either via email or we can make a blog or something like that. So there is communication. The no phone thing is more of a Tiff and I protocol for like trying to live in the moment, not to make sure you don't talk to your parents. So if there's something that you really need to do, we make sure that happens. And actually, the Andros staff, last time we were there, they were like, that's so cool that you don't let kids bring your phone. Because some kids will bring their phones and then they'll like sit in their cabin and not experience it together. It's kind of like, I think most of the kids that are going with us this year went to Beckett, but it's similar in that way, in that we want kids to be there and live in the moment and not be on their phones. And purchasing an international plan is silly. That's the other part of it.
We got to figure out why the kids are quiet and also where the dog went. So we got to sign off. But thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
sorry, we wanted to do this meeting earlier in November, but we wanted to wait till we had tickets so that we could all the details. I know I sent an email a couple weeks ago, but this is not normal. We usually have everything really planned out. We promise we're not unorganized, even though it might seem that way for a little bit. Tiff has been doing this for over 20 years, and I've been traveling with her for the last 7 years. So we've been doing this quite a bit. And I know she talked about like stitches and like we did have one kid have like a light just a bad sunburn, and there is a hospital in Andros. It's a pain to get there, but there is medical access there. It's not like we're completely in the middle of nowhere. So we're pretty good about mandating well-being. So
it'll be fine when everyone's doing it. And yeah, the peer norms getting established will be totally different from traveling with your mom. So, I'm sure all the kids will behave differently for y'all.
Yeah, sometimes like with travel groups, people are like, I know like people go to Spain or somewhere and it's like kids wander off. There's nowhere to wander off. Like we are quite literally on a semi-remote island. There is this tiny little convenience store that's like a half-mile away, run by a family, like in their living room. And we walk there sometimes together, but that's the extent. So it's pretty cool. It's a very unique experience. There are no resorts. Well, there are, but not anywhere near us. All right. Well, thanks for hanging with us.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be in touch this week.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.